He stole from the goddess's shrine at midnight. By sunrise, his lie was celebrated, and by sunset, the harvest cracked open, and the earth came to collect. In the village of Kitiku, a man's value was not measured by his words or his wisdom. A man's worth was measured by the height of his yam barn, not by his age, not by his title, but by how many tubers he could pile from floor to ceiling when the harvest moon came. And for Uche, the only thing piling up was debt and shame. That afternoon, Uche stood at the edge of his farm, staring at the withered cassava stems that looked like the fingers of corpses reaching from the earth. 5 planting seasons. 5 failures. While his neighbors' farms exploded with fat yams and heavy corn, his soil produced nothing but dust and mockery. Behind him, in their small compound, his wife Ada was grinding the last cup of garri they had. 29 years old, with a spirit that used to dance like fire, now dimmed to ember. She never complained, not when they ate 1 meal a day, not when her wrapper grew thin enough to see through, not when the other wives whispered, "He married a beautiful woman but cannot even feed her." But Uche saw it in her eyes, the question she was too kind to ask. What kind of man cannot make the earth yield? If you are ready for a story about desperation, greed, and the price we pay when we take what isn't ours, smash that like button and drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? Let's go. The village chief had called a meeting that evening. All the men gathered under the aroko tree, their faces lit by torchlights. Chief Ugochukwu stood in the center, his walking stick planted in the earth like a spear. Our annual Thanksgiving to Ani, the earth goddess, is in 3 days, the chief announced. As tradition demands, every household will bring their first harvest to the shrine. The best of your yams, the finest of your corn, the plumpest of your pumpkins. We pile them before Ani, and she blesses us for another season. The men nodded, murmuring agreement. But this year, Chief Ugochukwu continued, his voice dropping low. There will be consequences for those who bring shame to their households. If you cannot present an offering worthy of Annie's eyes, you will be marked as Oyenkiti, a man whose hand the earth rejects. You and your family will be asked to leave Kitiku. The words hit Uche like a machete to the chest. Leave Kitiku? This was his father's land, his grandfather's land. 7 generations of his bloodline had farmed this soil. And now, because the earth had turned its back on him, he would be exiled like a criminal? That night, Uche lay awake on his mat, listening to Ada's soft breathing beside him. She had her hand resting on his chest, even in sleep, trusting him, believing in him. He had 3 days to produce a harvest he didn't have. Desperation, my people, is a snake that swallows its own tail. It eats you from the inside until there's nothing left but hunger and bad decisions. The next morning, Uche went to his farm before sunrise. He knelt in the dirt, digging with his bare hands, praying to find even one salvageable yam, anything. He found rot, maggots, empty holes where tubers should have been. "Annie, what have I done to offend you?" he cried out, his voice cracking. "I pour libation, I keep your feast days, I honor my father's land. Why do you curse me?" The earth gave no answer, but the wind did. It blew from the east, carrying with it a whisper, an idea, a terrible possibility. The shrine. Uche's hips snapped up. The shrine of Anis sat at the boundary between Kitiku and the forbidden forest. It was a sacred place where the harvest offerings were piled every year. Mountains of yams, rivers of corn, pumpkins the size of water pots. All of it left to rot as tribute to the goddess. Wasted, rotting, while his family starved. No, Uche whispered to himself, standing up. No, that's a madness. But the thought had already taken root. What if he took just a little, just enough to present at the Thanksgiving, just enough to save his family from exile? Annie was a goddess. She didn't eat the food. It just sat there, decomposing, feeding nothing but flies and rats. Was it really stealing if the food was going to waste anyway? Yes, his conscience screamed. Yes, it is. But hunger has a way of silencing conscience. That night, when the moon hid behind clouds and the village slept, Uche took a large raffia basket and crept toward the shrine. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating so loud he was sure the ancestors could hear it from their graves. The shrine was a circular clearing surrounded by clay pots and wooden idols carved with the faces of the earth goddess. In the center was the offering pile. Even in the darkness, Uche could see the shakes. Enormous yams, their skin still fresh, corn cobs heavy with kernel, pumpkins that gleamed like bronze in the starlight. Just a few, Uche whispered, stepping into the clearing. Just enough. He reached out, his fingers touching the smooth skin of a yam. It was warm. Not sun warm, body warm, as if it had a pulse. Uche snatched his hand back, fear shooting through him like lightning. But hunger is louder than fear. He grabbed 3 large yams, 2 pumpkins, and a bundle of corn. He stuffed them into his basket, his breath coming in short gasps. "Forgive me, Annie," he muttered. "I will repay you, I swear it. Next season I will bring double, triple. Just let me survive this season." The wind picked up, howling through the clearing like a wounded animal. Uche didn't wait. He ran. He ran through the darkness, his basket heavy on his head, his feet pounding the earth. He didn't stop until he reached his compound, collapsing against the wall of his barn, gasping for air. He had done it. He had stolen from the goddess, and the earth beneath his feet trembled. The next morning, Ada awoke to find Uche standing over a pile of yams in their kitchen hut. "Uche," she gasped, her eyes wide. "Where did this come from?" "My farm. I found them. I must have missed a section. Annie has blessed us, Ada. Finally, she has blessed us." Ada should have been happy. She should have danced. But instead, she stared at the yams with an expression Uche couldn't read. "These are very large," she said slowly. "Too large for your soil." "Are you questioning a miracle?" Uche snapped, harsher than he intended. Ada flinched. Then she lowered her eyes. "No, my husband. Forgive me. I'm just surprised." But that night, when Uche was asleep, Ada lit a lamp and examined the yams closely. On the side of the largest one, barely visible, was a mark, a symbol carved into the skin, the mark of Annie's shrine. Ada's blood turned to ice. She knew what her husband had done. But she said nothing, because what choice did she have? If Uche was exiled, she would be exiled too. If he was marked as cursed, she would bear that curse. So she kept silent, and the secret sat between them like a third person in their marriage. The day of the Thanksgiving arrived. The entire village gathered at the shrine, each household presenting their offerings. The chief inspected every pile, nodding with approval. Yams were stacked, corn was blessed, pumpkins were admired. When Uche's turn came, he stepped forward, his basket filled with the stolen harvest. Chief Uguchuku's eyes widened. "Uche, is this from your farm?" "Yes, my chief," Uche said, stilled his voice. "Annie has finally smiled on me." The chief walked around the yams, examining them. Then he smiled. "These are magnificent. It seems the goddess has forgiven whatever offense kept her favor from you. Well done." Relief flooded through Uche like rain. He had done it. He had saved his family, saved his name. But as the chief turned away, something happened. The largest yam in Uche's pile began to crack. Not a small crack, a violent split, right down the middle, as if something inside was trying to get out. The crowd screamed, stepping back. Chief Uguchuku turned, his face going pale. "What is this?" he whispered. The yam split completely open. Inside was not flesh, not the white starchy interior of a normal tuber. Inside was soil, black, wet soil, and crawling through it were worms, hundreds of them writhing and twisting, pouring out onto the ground. The crowd screamed. One of the elders, Mazi Obeid, pointed a trembling finger at Uche. "Abomination! This is a sign. Annie rejects this offering." "No," Uche stumbled forward. "I don't understand. These came from my..." "Liar!" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It shook the trees, it rattled the shrine. It seemed to come from the earth itself. The villagers fell to their knees. From the pile of offerings at the shrine, a figure began to rise. It was a woman, tall, draped in red and white cloth, her skin the color of fertile earth. Her eyes were empty sockets filled with roots and soil. Her hair was made of growing vines. Ani, the earth goddess herself. Uche, son of Okafo, you have taken what was offered to me. You have stolen from sacred ground. You have lied to your people. You have broken covenant. Uche collapsed, prostrating himself in the dirt. Forgive me, great Ani. I was desperate. My farm produced nothing. I only wanted to survive. And so you stole? The goddess's voice cracked like thunder. You took what was meant to feed the spirits of the land, what was meant to sustain the balance? I will return it. I will bring more. Anything. What you took cannot be returned, Ani said, her voice cold, because what you stole was not food, Uche. It was time. Time? Those offerings feed the ancestors. They feed the spirits who make your soil rich. Without their share, the balance breaks. And when balance breaks, consequences follow. The ground beneath Uche began to sink. He scrambled backwards, terror flooding his veins. No, please. You have a choice, Ani said, her hollow eyes fixed on him. One life or many. Give yourself to the earth, return to the soil, feed what you have starved, and your farm will bloom again. Your wife will live. Your family name will survive. Uche's throat closed. Or you live, but everything you touch will wither. Every seed you plant will die. Every crop will rot. And this curse will pass to your children and your children's children until 7 generations have suffered for your theft. Pause right here. What would you do? Sacrifice yourself or curse your entire bloodline? Comment your choice below. And if this story has you hooked, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what happens next. Uche looked at Ada. She was standing at the edge of the crowd, tears streaming down her face, her hand pressed against her stomach. And in that moment, Uche understood. She was pregnant. She hadn't told him yet. Maybe she was waiting for the right time. Maybe she was afraid given their circumstances. But now there was a child, his child, growing in her womb. If he chose the curse, that child would suffer. That child would plant seeds that would never grow. That child would know hunger just as Uche had known it. 7 generations. His son, his grandson, children he would never meet, punished for his sin. Uche closed his eyes. He thought about his father, who had taught him to farm, who had walked him through the rows, showing him how to read the soil, how to honor the earth. The land gives, my son, his father had said, but only if you respect it, only if you understand that you are borrowing, not owning. Uche had forgotten that lesson. He had taken, he had stolen, he had put his need above the sacred order, and now the earth was asking for payment. I choose, Uche's voice broke. He looked at Ada one last time. I choose myself. Ada's knees buckled. She let out a wail that split the sky. Ani nodded slowly. So be it. The ground opened beneath Uche, not violently, almost gently, like a mouth closing around food. He didn't fight. He let the earth take him, pulling him down into the dark soil. The last thing he saw was Ada running towards him, her hands reaching. Uche! But he was already gone. The earth sealed over him, smooth and flat, as if he had never existed. The village stood in silence. Then slowly, where Uche had been swallowed, something began to grow. A yam vine, green and strong, pushing through the soil with impossible speed. Within moments, it had grown into a thick, healthy plant, its leaves broad and vibrant. Chief Uguchukwu approached carefully. He knelt and dug into the soil with his hands. He pulled out a yam, the largest, most perfect yam any of them had ever seen. Ani has accepted his sacrifice, the chief said quietly. The balance is restored. Ada collapsed, sobbing into the earth. 9 months later, Ada gave birth to a son. She named him Uchenna for his father. The child grew strong, and when he was old enough, Ada took him to the farm that had once been his father's. The soil was rich now, dark and fertile. Every seed that touched it exploded with life. Your father gave himself so you could live, Ada told her son, kneeling beside him in the field. He made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but in the end, he chose love over fear. He chose you. The boy looked at his mother with serious eyes. "Will I farm this land, Mama?" "Yes," Ada said, tears streaming down her face. "You will farm it, you will honor it, and you will never, never take what does not belong to you." The boy nodded solemnly. And as they walked the soil together, planting the first seeds of the season, the wind blew warm and gentle across the field. Some said it was just the harmattan wind, but Ada knew better. It was Uche, still there, still watching, still providing. Not from the yamban, but from the earth itself. In Kitiku, they still tell this story to young farmers. They point to the field where Uche was taken, where the yams grow larger and sweeter than anywhere else. That is what happens, they say, when a man finally learns that the earth does not owe you a harvest. You owe the earth your respect. If this story moved you, if it made you think about what you would sacrifice for the people you love, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more African folktales that will make you question everything. And tell me in the comments, was Uche a thief or just a desperate man? Until next time, remember, the earth always collects its debts.